This is your ultimate stop for everything sports. The Golden State Media Concepts Sports Podcast. Should I say more? From the NFL, MLB, the NBA to MMA, it's all in here. The Golden State Media Concepts Sports Podcast. Listen now.
GSMC Podcast Network. My name is Chris Blades, and before I get started today, I want to make sure I take the time out to remind you, as always, if you haven't already, subscribe to the podcast, make sure you never miss an episode, make sure you're always on top when we drop our latest stuff. Also, if you could please as well, give us a 5-star rating, write us a review. Very appreciated, very helpful. Allow us to see what you guys like, what you guys dislike, the ways we can improve, all that fun stuff. And also, if you're on social media, we're on social media, so you can find us there, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook. We can talk, we can chat, we can debate, we can discuss. And I don't normally like doing this, like, after the first game of series, but the finals might be over. Now, I wouldn't be saying this if, like, everybody was healthy and, like, oh, okay, like, the Lakers just came out and put a hurting on the Heat. Like, all right, that's not completely out of the realm of possibility. I mean, especially when they shot as well as they did, at least in the beginning. I think for the game, they shot 40% from three, but I think they hit like 11 of their first like 13 or 15 or something like that. I know they hit 11 threes in the first half, which is a part of the reason why they were able to build up the lead that they were able to build up. Like, yeah, they were up 65-48 at halftime. And like I said, a lot of that was because of their 3-point shooting, which is funny because obviously, as we know, though, looking back on the teams in the playoffs, they haven't been that much better of a 3-point shooting team, which again makes more sense. You're playing better defenses. It's going to be harder to shoot just naturally. But the Heat, obviously during the regular season, were one of the best 3-point shooting teams, and they have a lot of good 3-point shooters percentage-wise during the season on their roster. But like I said, clearly that didn't matter. They looked like a lot of guys that were playing in their first their first finals game. I mean, obviously Jimmy Butler looked good, and Jay Crowder got off to a good start, but Bam, even before he got hurt, was struggling a little bit. Duncan Robinson didn't really do anything. Dragic didn't do a whole lot before he got hurt as well. Like I said, I know Hero was 6 of 18 in his minutes. They were playing Solomon Hill and Derrick Jones Jr. for some reason. I mean, obviously, before Bam got hurt, he was in foul trouble, so there is that. But still, you would tell I don't say you could tell they were nervous, but it looked like guys that hadn't been in their first finals game before. And then Iggy and Jimmy Butler. As opposed to LeBron, even though a lot of their guys haven't been in the finals before, but they also have much more finals experience. Obviously Iggy has a lot of finals experience, and so does Haslam, but Haslam's also not playing. So it's really just Iggy, as opposed to on the Lakers, you got LeBron, you got Rondo, you got Danny Green, you got Dwight. They have a lot of guys that have played in a lot of big playoff games before. And then also you happen to have Anthony Davis, who on given nights, like he was in this game, can look like the best player in the world. And that was always going to be the issue. Now it's going to be an even bigger issue because, like I said, Bam and Dragic are unlikely to play on Friday. I mean, in my opinion, they're probably done for the series. But, again, I don't know. I'm not a doctor. We'll see what kind of goes on. But I think Bam is his neck and Dragic is his foot. So, like I said, maybe Bam could potentially come back, depending on how they massage the neck. But with the foot, I'm just it's going to be hard for Dragic to come back and be able to play, I would imagine. And if that's the case, then the Heat have no chance. Again, I'm not saying they're going to win every game, because, all right, you catch the Lakers on a bad night, and then Duncan Robinson and Jay Crowder or whoever are hitting threes. And then, all right, maybe you could sneak one. I mean, the Mavs took a game after KP got hurt against the Clippers. Again, different story. It's the Clippers and not the Lakers. But still, like I said, these are professionals. I'm not going to say they're 100% going to get swept. But, if Dragic and Bam don't play another game, I think that's the most likely outcome here. They just honestly. like I said, and even before, like, they got hurt, like, even when they were still playing, like, the Heat just looked overwhelmed. And again, a lot of it stemmed from the fact that, as I kind of thought, they don't have anyone to guard Anthony Davis. And obviously with Dwight out there on the floor starting, like, he didn't really do a whole lot in the beginning of the game. But, like, that means Bam can't guard him. They can't guard Anthony Davis. They put Jay Crowder or whoever on him, and he was really good in the first half. Ended the game with 34 points and 9 rebounds plus 5 assists. I mean, LeBron did his thing as well. 25, 13 rebounds, 9 assists, almost a triple-double. I mean, no one else really did that amazing. Like, KCP had double digits, but he was 3 of 10 from the field. Danny Green hit 3 threes, which was nice to see for the Lakers. And then Caruso had 10 points off the bench. But just that, like, the Heat just didn't really have a whole lot. They shot 42% from the field, 31% from 3. No one outside of Crowder, and I guess also Jimmy hit 2, but, like, no one outside of Crowder shot well from 3. Realistically, obviously Kendrick Nunn, it was 2 for 4 as well, but a lot of his minutes were when the game was already a little bit out of hand. So there is that. So yeah, just one of those things where it's like, the Heat were going to be too small for the Lakers. And it's just like, that's not a thing you can fix. Like, that's not an adjustment you can make. Like, all right, you can you can run different defenses, you can get guys easier shots, you can get guys involved earlier or try different things, but you can't make an adjustment for size. Like, if you're not as big as them, you're not going to be as big as them in game 1 or game 7. It doesn't really matter. And that's kind of where the Heat are at right now. So like I said, we'll see what kind of they can do in game 5. I mean, not game 5, in game 2 on Friday. But like I'm saying, without Bam, without Dragic, who on any given night can be the best player on the floor for the Heat, without both of those guys, it's hard for me to imagine. Like I said, they were already, like, their margin for error was already kind of slim due to the fact that the Lakers had AD and LeBron, and now that they don't have 2 of their 3 best players, and the Lakers still have AD and LeBron, like, it's hard for me to imagine them pulling off the upset here. But again, that's not how they're going to talk about it. They're obviously going to think they can win and they can come back and do all those things. But like I said, it's going to be difficult for me personally to be able to predict and think that, just because, like I said, I like with Bam out, like, who are you replacing him with? Are you starting Olynyk? You probably have to, right? Like, again, you can't start Solomon Hill and go with Jay Crowder or Solomon Hill on Dwight. I mean, granted, they're not going to give the ball to Dwight that much to do a whole lot, but still, he got, in his 15 minutes, he got 8 rebounds. Like I said, that'll only go up with smaller guys out there, you would think. And then, like I said, then it's just like, what do you do with Anthony Davis? Because, like I said, you can't really put Olynyk out. I guess they'll probably put Olynyk, but I'm like, I don't know what you do there. Then also, I guess they'll go back to starting Kendrick Nunn, which they did for most of the regular season. But obviously, Dragic had been great during the playoffs, so there was no reason not to. But yeah, then it's also, like I said, is limiting your bench. Not that Olynyk and Nunn were getting a lot of bench minutes regularly anyway, but, like, those are 2 guys that could come off your bench. Now they're going to have to start, most likely. Again, like, I think the guys are doubtful, so there's not officially out yet. But, like I said, it's hard for me to imagine that either of those guys will play on Friday, personally. But again, not a doctor. So, yeah, I'm curious how they're going to try to, what Spo has up his sleeves to try to make an adjustment. Because, again, it's easy to make adjustments and try different things and do different things when your team's fully healthy. When you have to make adjustments on the fly while also being down 2 of your best players, it makes things a little bit more difficult, in my opinion, to kind of adjust and try to do different things, for me personally. Like I said, I'm not the coach. Spo's a very good coach, one of the better coaches in the league, so I don't think he'll, like I said, I don't think he'll make any excuses or do anything like that, but like I said, it's going to be tough for the Heat to come back in this series. Like I said, I don't expect them to win game 2. I believe they win a game when I see them win a game at this point. Like I said, I know I predicted the Lakers in 6 originally. And even then, like I said, in the first half, I might have given the Heat too much credit. Though, the Lakers aren't going to hit 11 threes in every half of every game. Like, again, they could do it another game just so they have some streaky shooters on the roster. But again, that's not typically how they win games. They win games with defense and enough scoring to overcome your opponent. Or overcome the opponent. Like, they don't beat teams shooting them out the gym. Like, that's not normally how they win. Like I said, not impossible, but that's not normally the strategy that they utilize. Like I said, if they get a good shooting series from the team, then it's going to be over even quicker. So, yeah, it's a rough spot for the Heat at the moment. Like I said, we'll see what happens Friday. See how things change, see how things grow. But at the moment, it's not looking great for them. And again, not their fault 100%. Let's say there were certain advantages that the Lakers were always going to have over them, so that is what it is. But at the same time, when you lose two guys, it's tough. So, like I said, it's going to be difficult. But again, we'll see. Maybe they can shut all this talk up, and he can come out and pull out a surprising win on Friday. And then, obviously, it changes the discussion around the series, because obviously a lot of discussion after last night is the series over kind of thing. And all the other what excuses are you going to make for the Lakers, blah blah blah, all that kind of stuff. Though, like I said, I don't necessarily believe in asterisks with championships. I know obviously I said a while ago, and I still kind of do feel that way. The championship is weird due to the fact that there's no fans, you're not traveling, it's a different kind of championship. But again, as I've already touched on, I hadn't thought about the mental aspect and the wear and tear on your headspace, being isolated for so long, being without family, without friends, being in the same location for months and months on end. I do think that could take a toll on people, even though it's not necessarily a physical toll, your body's tired or anything like that from having to travel and everything, but your mind is tired just from, again, being in isolation for all those months. But I know that it's just an interesting thing to kind of look at when you look through LeBron's finals, and even before the Heat obviously got hurt, you could argue that this was probably the worst team that he's ever played, which is interesting. I hadn't really thought about it too much beforehand, but if you look back on all the teams that he's played, every team that he's played in the finals had at least one, if not two, Hall of Fame or surefire Hall of Famers on the roster. And again, the Mavs one's weird because obviously some of the Hall of Fame, Jason Kidd is on the team, but he was a little bit older at the time. But again, he's another surefire Hall of Famer. They had some other good vets. It was a different kind of team. Like I said, the first Spurs team had obviously their big three. Like I said, the Mavs had Dirk and Kidd and some other good players. But again, obviously the Hall of Famers were a little bit older. Then obviously you got young Russ and Harden and KD. Then you got the Spurs again, but this time they had Kawhi on the team as well. You got them back to back. Then you had the Warriors, who had just Steph the first 2 years. Because like I said, he's probably the only surefire one, and then I guess depending on how you feel about Iggy. And then he's probably the only surefire one. Clay could get in, Draymond could get in, depending on how the rest of their careers play out. But then also you had Steph and KD for 2 years, and then now this year you got the Heat. So like I said, it's an interesting thing to think about. This could be the worst team he's played, and again, I wouldn't hold that against them if they come out and get the dub. Like I said, I think people will be it's already started. People talking about how easy was his road. He didn't really face anybody tough. He didn't have to face the Clippers. He had to face this team. He didn't have to face that team. All that stuff. And again, it's always easy to say that when you, I don't want to say demolish, but when you dispose of the teams fairly easily. Again, myself included, people thought the Blazers could give them a tough time. Didn't happen. People thought the Rockets could give them a tough time. Didn't happen. Now, I didn't think the Nuggets wouldn't give them a tough time, but people thought both the Blazers and Rockets could give them a tough time, and the Lakers just showed levels. Like I said, it's not like this is some there's not some underdog or they just lucked out and kind of teams that they faced. No, they were the best team. When you're the best team, you face the worst team in the first round. You get to face, instead of having to face the 3 seed, you get to face the 4 or the 5 seed in the second round, and then. Like I said, the Clippers, had they just done what they were supposed to do and win their series when they were up 3-1 against the Nuggets, then again, we could have had that matchup. And again, maybe that goes further than 5 or 6 games. And maybe this goes further than 5, because again, all their series have gone max 5 at this point. But again, even that, like I said, it's always a weird argument when you kind of talk about it, because then, all those years, it was he didn't face any competition in the West, and that's why he didn't get all the finals, or that's why he was getting through the East so easily. And now his first year healthy in the West, it's he didn't face any good teams in the West. And I'm you can make that argument about anybody or any team. Because then teams don't look as good after the fact, after you've already disposed of them and after you've already gotten rid of them. Like I said, but at the time, when the series started, people thought like, oh, maybe the Blazers could upset them, especially after Game 1. Same thing with the Rockets, like, oh, maybe the Rockets could upset them. So like I said, it's interesting how this finals, if they do win, obviously again they got a lot more games to play, but it'll be interesting to look at how this finals is remembered for LeBron, for AD, for different guys, and how this journey will be remembered after the fact. Because again, what was being said now was not what was being said at the time when the series were taking place. So, like I said, that's a little bit of revisionist history already, and it hasn't even been like a year or a season or anything. It's like literally been a couple weeks since they handled these teams. Like I said, at the end of the day, you beat who's in front of you, and they've done it, and they've done it easily. Like I said, there are other teams that maybe have faced, I don't want to say tougher competition, because, again, it's all relative, but again, there's other teams that, like, the Clippers went to 6 games with the Mavs when they probably shouldn't have. Like I said, the Lakers could have done that, but they were just like, no, we're going to get them out of here with the Blazers, and we're going to get them out of here with the Rockets, and we're going to get them out of here with the Nuggets. We're not going to wait around and waste our time, anything like that. Like, no, we're going to handle our business, and then we're going to dispose of them, and then we'll move on to the next series. Like I said, like some teams, like that doesn't happen. There's some teams, they play a 6-game or a 7-game series when they probably shouldn't have had to go that long, kind of thing. The Lakers never had that happen. So like I said, you got to give them some kudos and credit for that. And also and we'll just, like I said, we'll discuss this later on down the line of what this fourth championship and his I guess, well, he's not, and if he does win, he will have won it with 3 different teams. That's what I was trying to say. And how that affects his legacy with Jordan, because like I said, everybody's, the perfect record is what kind of keeps Jordan up there among other things. But I'm just saying, winning a championship for 3 separate franchises is not an easy task. Especially one in the Cavs that had never won one, and one in the Heat that had only won one up until the time that you had gotten there. Granted, the Bulls hadn't won anything before Jordan got there either. But, like I said, to move around and have new teams and have new teammates and still find a way to win championships is a testament to your greatness, is that you can do it with different kind of guys. Again, Jordan, the 2 3-peat teams were a little bit different, but again, it was Phil, it was Scotty, it was him. Like I said, he doesn't have any constants in his championships. It's just him. Different coaches, different players, different everything. I guess outside of him, well, J.R. Smith have been around for a couple of them. Things like that. But again, it's just an interesting thing to think about. But like I said, we'll get to that after the series. So we'll see what happens in Game 2. Hopefully he can bounce back. But again, without Dragic and Bam, I'm not expecting it, at least. And speaking of not being surprised and not expecting things, I did not expect Doc Rivers to already have a job. But he does. So we'll talk about that. Who he signed on to be the new, who's bringing him on to be their new head coach, and how that kind of affects the rest of the coaching hires that are still out there. Because again, the team he went to had other candidates potentially narrowed down until he got let go, and then obviously that changed a bunch of things. So we'll talk about all that right after the break. Stay right there.
Are you looking for the very best NFL and college football podcast? Then check out the GSMC Football Podcast. Get the latest football news both on and off the field. From the NFL Draft to trades to the rumor mill to the NFL Combines. They got you covered. That's GSMCpodcast.com/football-podcast. Get updates on college rivalries, game day insights, and much, much more. It's football talk the way you want it. This show eats, sleeps, and breathes football. Don't forget to like them on Facebook and follow them on Twitter. Visit GSMCpodcast.com for more info.
And we're back here again on the GSMC Sports Podcast presented by GSMC Podcast Network. So, Doc Rivers has agreed to a 5-year deal to coach the Philadelphia 76ers. And this is from Woj from earlier today. After rapid courtship and negotiation, Doc Rivers has reached an agreement, like I said, on a 5-year deal to become the Sixers' next head coach. Sources told ESPN on Thursday. Did I say Tuesday? I'd be forgetting what days it is sometimes, just because, again, the whole not really leaving my house thing all that often. It has me confused on the days of the week sometimes. Rivers' deal with the Sixers comes only 3 days after he parted with the LA Clippers. It also means he'll return to the Atlantic Division, where he'll be principal rival of the Boston Celtics, with whom Rivers won an NBA title with in 2008, and also their most recent NBA title. So, and also his most recent NBA title. So that's kind of fun. Sixers general manager on Monday reached out to Rivers and his agent to gauge interest in the Sixers job. Rivers soon was on a flight to Philadelphia, where meetings on Wednesday with brand and owners Josh Harris and David Blitzer had the sides moving quickly towards negotiating a multi-year deal. Rivers takes over Sixers team that lost in the first round of Eastern Conference playoffs and continues to consider changes to its roster that brand remains determined to construct around Ben Simmons and Joel Embiid, clearly. Well, as you should. I'm not saying clearly, because we'll see what happens there. There's hope that a reunion with Rivers can be impactful on Tobias Harris, which is an interesting thing to look into, maximizing his play with the Sixers. Before the Clippers traded Harris to the Sixers in February 2019, Harris was having his best NBA season, averaging 20.9 points on 50% shooting and 43% from the three-point line, though, in fairness, he was also the main guy. So, I think that matters. Because, again, obviously, he's the second option at best. Well, I mean, probably the second option because Ben Simmons doesn't like to score the ball. But this is a different dynamic when you're the guy as opposed to one of the guys. Like I said, that does matter, in my opinion, though. Like I said, in order to make the most out of that contract that they gave to Tobias Harris, he needs to play well. And if maybe having the coach that helped him play well, even for a half a year, could be beneficial for him. Though, again, they didn't have Embiid on that roster, so a little bit different. But at the same time is, in fact, an interesting dynamic to add to this. Rivers was a late entry into the process, obviously, that had become increasingly focused on former Rockets head coach Mike D'Antoni. Rivers had been intrigued enough with the roster, marketplace, and organization to fly from the West Coast of Philadelphia to sit down with the hierarchy. He succeeds Brett Brown, obviously, who had spent 7 years on the job throughout the whole process, really, and was fired after the Sixers were swept in the first round by the Celtics. Philly has not won an NBA championship since 1983, so, I mean, I don't know if that will change under Doc, but hey, who knows? It also is being reported that he could potentially add Alvin Gentry to his roster, because, again, I know we had Ty Lue, had Sam Cassell, but now it's looking like Ty Lue could be in line for the Clippers job, which would make a lot of sense. So we'll see how that plays. But again, apparently Alvin Gentry is a name to be on the lookout for to adding to his roster. I mean, we already kind of went through all his accolades and things that he had done in the last episode. Obviously because he was let go. So I went through some of his career records and different things like that. So we don't need to go over those again. But again, it's just an interesting dynamic to see here. For me personally, like I said, I thought maybe he'd want a fresh start, want to start over, and obviously the Pelicans were a team you could start over with. Again, they got a lot of young talent, can build up a contender, you would think, relatively soon, because they have assets, have people that they can trade, have young pieces in Lonzo and Brandon Ingram and Zion that could be a part of a good team in the coming years. But it's clear, I should say, that him being Doc Rivers, wanted to be a part of a championship caliber team immediately. And that's what the Sixers can be. Not going to say that is what they will be, but that is what they can be, at least in the short term. I don't know, long term. Again, you got to look at different things with how their roster is constructed and how they're going to be able to get out of that Al Horford deal, things like that, which we'll talk about in a second. But again, in the short term, I understand why the intrigue for the Sixers and why the intrigue for Doc Rivers, because apparently it sounds like the ownership was leaning more towards Mike D'Antoni. Elton Brand, I don't know if he was as on board, but then obviously I think he was more a Ty Lue guy or vice versa. I forget. There was a disconnect between ownership and the front office in terms of the guy that they wanted, and they wanted two different guys. And like I said, it was seeming like D'Antoni was going to be the guy, which obviously kind of makes sense for them. I think their front office is a little bit, and the ownership is a little bit more analytical, and they're also newer, younger owners, so that kind of makes sense why you'd want a more futuristic basketball mind, even though obviously he's been in the league for a while, but again, he's forward thinking in terms of the way in which he develops and designs his teams. But again, I don't know how much that would have worked out. If that was the case, I still thought Tyler would have been the best candidate personally, but it is what it is. But then again, obviously, once Doc Rivers became an option, they're like, all right, we can settle on Doc Rivers. And like I said, it seems like everybody's on board with that. The players apparently were on board. Like I said, front office was on board. Elton Brand was on board. So, like I said, that's good. Now, for the hire itself, I don't know. Like I said, it's better than Mike D'Antoni personally, because I don't know how Mike D'Antoni would have fit with that roster. Due to the fact that, again, he just got rid of his center, and they haven't beat on the roster. So, but apparently there was some reports that Embiid wanted D'Antoni so he didn't have to do as much back to the basket stuff. So, hey, maybe it would have worked out, maybe it wouldn't have. I'm not really sure. Or, again, they could have got rid of Simmons, because, again, as we saw, having a point guard that can't shoot can be a detriment to your offense, as we saw with Russell Westbrook, as they tried that this year. So there is that. And also, there's an interesting article that I haven't read fully, but it's from Kevin Arnovitz from ESPN. He writes about how Doc Rivers couldn't manage the Ben Simmons and Joel Embiid tandem. So, like I said, that's an interesting thing to look at, and that's going to be the biggest dynamic, is how does he handle that? Because that may or may not have been an issue with his current handling of the Clippers. Was the fact that, again, there's apparently a little favoritism in the locker room, a bit maybe towards little Paul George, and obviously guys like Kawhi and different things, they were able to load manage and not have to play as much. While other guys did, they had to play all the time, kind of thing. Though again, some of those guys may have wanted to. Obviously, there was a leadership problem in the locker room, because as came out, I think it was Shams that reported about it, about how Paul George kind of tried to get everybody excited about the next year, and after the season, in fairness, he didn't play his best in the playoffs. So there is that does kind of fall on deaf ears when you don't play that well, and you're part of the reason why we didn't advance. Though again, everybody was at fault for different reasons, including Doc, which we'll get to. But again, that fell on deaf ears, and there was some eye rolls and different things. So, like I said, there clearly he had issues handling all the personalities on that team last year, and there has been some talks again, because again everybody talks about it, but maybe it's just a Philly thing, and a Philly fan, a Philly radio, a Philly media thing. But everyone kind of talks about the Simmons and Embiid dynamic, and like, can it work? Can it not work? Should they split them up? Should they keep them together? And different things like that. And that's going to be the most important part of Doc Rivers' job, is how does he handle that? If he chooses to handle that. Because again, maybe he wants to ship one of them off. I don't really know. But again, handling that will be important, because again, making it work with those two guys is the best chance for the Sixers to have success, in my opinion. Again, they need to surround them with the right pieces, i.e. get Al Horford off the roster, maybe trade him for Buddy Hield, as he might want out of the Kings, and apparently the Kings like Al Horford, so that could potentially work, because they need some shooting. But again, they have to figure that part out. But like I said, I don't really know if this is a vast improvement on Brett Brown. Now, obviously, a lot of Sixers fans that I know and that I follow on Twitter and things like that wanted Brett Brown gone. And understandably so. Again, I don't think Brett Brown's that good of a coach. But I'm also not sure that Doc Rivers is that good of a coach. Obviously, he has a championship, which Brett Brown does not have. Well, at least has it, and I think he was on some of those early Spurs teams. But as a leading man, he doesn't have a championship. That's cool. But again, that championship for Doc Rivers was 12 years ago. Going on 13 years now. So it's not like it was recent. It's not like it was fresh. It's not like it was new. Also, in order to win that championship, he needed 3 Hall of Famers and Rondo in the starting lineup. So again, it's not like he won with it's not like he's Nick Nurse that won with that Raptors team. That again was a very good team. But again, outside of Kawhi, they don't all right, maybe the ring will get Kyle Lowry in, maybe it'll get Marc Gasol in, we don't know. But Kawhi's only the guy that you probably peg him as a Hall of Fame caliber player at this point in his career. Like I said, and even with that team, they didn't just sweep through the playoffs, and it wasn't an easy sail. Again, they had some 7-game series, had some tough battles even with that, while having 3 Hall of Famers in their starting lineup. Again, it was first year and things like that, but that's kind of been a knock on Doc, and we talked about previously on other episodes of the podcast, is about how he kind of always underachieves relative to his talent. like, when you look at that team, obviously, again, they were later in their careers. It wasn't like when Bosh, Wade, and LeBron went down to Miami. Like, they weren't all in their primes. Like, they weren't out of their primes. They weren't bad, but they were a little bit further on in their careers. But again, they only won the one championship. They went back to one of their finals, but they lost to the Lakers. In Orlando, we had Tracy McGrady and different things. Obviously, they tried to get Tim Duncan. There was a report that, like, he wouldn't let Tim Duncan's family fly on the plane or different things. Don't know how true that is, but apparently they had a chance to get Tim Duncan. I don't know if he was the reason they didn't get him or if it was another reason. Don't know. Like I said, not going to blame Doc for that, but I will blame Doc for blowing that 3-1 lead. Obviously, the famous Tracy McGrady comments is happy to get the second round, and they didn't get the second round, so there's that. Like I said, the Celtics teams only got the one championship out of them. The Clippers teams, again, different teams. You had the Lob City, and then obviously you had this newer version of the Clippers. But both versions never made it past the second round. Never made it past the second round, excuse me. So like I said, it's fair to question, like, is he the guy to get you over the hump? Like I said, he got the one championship. I can't take that away from him. Like I said, that's hard to do. Not that many coaches have done it, so I'm not gonna knock him for that at all, 100%. But you've seen teams and you've seen coaches, even newer coaches, like look at Steve Kerr. Steve Kerr had never coached before and won a championship his first year as a coach with just, I mean, again, not just Steph Curry, but again, Steph, Draymond, Clay, Iggy, like those were solid players, but Draymond wasn't who we know he is now at that time. Clay was a good shooter, but he wasn't as known as he is now as a two-way player kind of guy. Obviously, Steph was talented, but we weren't sure he was ever going to live up to his draft billing, and obviously that he far exceeded that. Excuse me. So like I said, it's not like winning a championship is not something that good coaches and great coaches can't do. Like, that's what they should be able to do. And again, some great coaches haven't won it. So again, I'm not going to sit here and act like it's an easy thing to do. But when you look at the level of talent he's had over the course of his career, the fact that he doesn't have more trips to the finals, he doesn't have more conference finals appearances, different things like that. Like, he hasn't had one since since ever the Celtics Big Three broke up. I forget if he, I guess it would have been the 2012 year was probably the last time they made the conference finals, I would believe. Like the LeBron Game 6 game where he had to come back after the year after they lost to the Mavs. I think that was the last time they were in conference finals with him as the coach, or he was in the conference finals. So I'm saying it's just like, is he that guy that's going to be like, yes, he's going to take the Celtics, mend this relationship, get the most out of Embiid, get the most out of Simmons, get the most out of Tobias Harris, get the most out of, hopefully not Al Horford because he'll be off the roster, get the most out of like Shake Milton and Korkmaz and some of these other guys that are going to be on the team, Josh Richardson. Like, is he that guy? Like I said, I don't know. Like I said, players have had good years. They've had All-NBA caliber years, All-Star caliber years under his coaching. But at the same time, like, for whatever reason, his teams get to the playoffs, they don't make it as far as they should. Like I said, Brett Brown was a 4-bouncer away to going to overtime with the Raptors, and maybe they won that game, and maybe he's still that coach at this point in time. Maybe Jimmy Butler's still there. Like, things go, if Kawhi doesn't hit that hit, which again he did, so revisionist history, hindsight's always 20/20, but if he didn't hit that shot, like, the entire trajectory of the Sixers franchise may have gone differently. Like I said, you'd be looking at Brett Brown differently, you'd be looking at Embiid and Simmons and Jimmy Butler differently, Tobias Harris at that time. Again, maybe they're still together. We don't know what would have happened had that shot not happened. Like I said, that's closer than like I said, every time they've been to a Game 7 in the second round, it's been because the Clippers have screwed up. Again, this year is because they blew a 3-1 lead. Against the Rockets, it's because they blew a 3-1 lead, had a big lead in Game 6, let Josh Smith and Corey Brewer bring them back with James Harden on the bench. Like, again, they blew a big lead in Game 5 of the OKC series. I forget if it was the year before or year after the 3-1 lead. So like I said, they've had chances to get to the conference finals, and they've squandered them. And a part of that's because Doc maybe is a little bit slow to make adjustments, or his rotation aren't that good, or you kind of sticks with guys a little too long. Like, even in the playoffs, like, it was clear Montrez could not be out there with Jokic at the same time. Lou Will could not be out there with you. Like, there's certain matchups that you couldn't put those guys out there in. But he was going to stick to his guns. Like, apparently there was some report that, I was seeing some tweets and some theories about how, like, people in the front office were like, hey, we need to play Zubac more. And because Montrezl Harrell had been his guy, he was like, nah, I'm going to stick with Montrez. And like I said, in the playoffs, especially in that Jokic, in the Nuggets series, Zubac was out playing Montrez. Like I said, this is some of those things, and some of that favoritism he may or may not show that that has kind of led to his downfall and has led to his teams underperforming. So again, this will be an interesting thing to look at. I don't think he's a bad coach. I think he's better than D'Antoni for the Sixers. But at the same time, I don't know if he's that guy. Like, again, you could argue he's underachieved for the amount of talent that he's had over the course of his coaching career. Up until this point, again, he has the one championship. But again, a lot of coaches. Ty Lue has one championship. He's coached. He's been head coach for 3 or 4 years, something like that. Like he hasn't coached nearly as long, and he has one championship. And as I've already said, the 2008 Celtics live off that one championship more than any other team I've seen in recent memory. Like again, Doc Rivers would not have stayed with the Clippers that long had he not won that one championship, and hadn't been so likable. Obviously, he's a good guy. It seems like, and people like him. But again, without that championship, I don't think he's with the Clippers as long. I don't think he gets the Sixers job this easily without that championship. But again, he has it, so can't knock him there. But again, speaking of D'Antoni, I think people, the thought now is maybe he could go to the Pacers. And I think that's interesting, only because under D'Antoni, the one thing I will give him, even though obviously he doesn't win championships and things like that, players always had their best offensive years under D'Antoni. So again, as we saw TJ Warren, he was good in the bubble up until they faced the Heat. But again, maybe he can get the most out of him. Maybe he'll get more out of Miles Turner, who again seems like a D'Antoni type center, where he's a guy that can defend. He's a guy that should. Well, the idea of Miles Turner is probably better than the player, but he's in theory can defend, can rebound, can step out the 3-point line, can do a bunch of different things that he didn't have with the Rockets, which is why they ship out Capella, because with Russ on the team, it didn't make sense to have that many non-shooters on the floor at the same time. But again, if you had him, instead of having to go with Jeff Green or PJ Tucker all the time in the playoffs, maybe things go a little bit differently. Though, like I said, I don't know how good Miles Turner is. Because you think he should be better than he is now, but that's a different story. It'd be interesting. Maybe you can convince Oladipo to stay because you know what he does to offensive players in their games. Be interesting to see what he does with a guy like Sabonis. Because again, he's never had a big as versatile as him that could pass like him. Well, I don't want to say he hasn't, because I don't remember all those 7 seconds or less Suns teams. But again, he's with the Rockets. He hasn't had a big that can pass like him, that can step out and shoot a little bit, can do different things offensively. That's a bonus can do. Obviously, he was an All-Star this year. So, I think it would be interesting sending him to the Pacers. Because I don't know where else he would go. I don't think they're going to bring him to the Pelicans. I would be shocked if they went there. But I think, obviously, he was in line for the Sixers job. Now he's not going to get it. I think the Pacers would be an interesting fit for him. And also, like I said, Ty Lue was another guy who was in position for that job. And I think he's probably should be the next, I don't want to say obvious, but the likely candidate for the Clippers job. Which, again, would make sense. I think once they saw that, hey, Ty Lue's going to maybe we think we could replace Doc with Ty Lue because he's already here. And you saw that maybe the Sixers didn't want him. It's all right, yeah, we can let Doc go so we can bring in Ty Lue. It makes sense. You can't obviously make Ty Lue the head coach without letting Doc go first. And maybe you think people will respect him more. He'll be able to manage the personalities more. Because, again, as we saw in Cleveland, he's managing different teams, different personalities. They're trading for guys mid-season. Different things. Obviously, the Kyrie and LeBron dynamic, that the Kevin Love dynamic. There's a lot of different things he had to deal with during his time in Cleveland. And they made it to the finals every time. So I think that's important for me, at least. So, at least I forget if he was there the year after LeBron left. That's a good question. I don't think he was there last year, but I could be wrong with that. But again, at least every year, that's the other things everyone's gonna say LeBron. But I'm all right, you could say that, and that's why people are kind of knocking Ty Lue. But I'm Doc again only won when he had 3 Hall of Famers in the starting lineup. He's never won with any other type of team. And again, only went to the finals twice with that lineup. At least Ty Lue made it there 3 times. He overcame a 3-1 lead, which Doc hasn't. He's the one blowing the 3-1 leads, different things. So like I said, interesting dynamic. It should be interesting to see how it plays out. Don't know how it's going to work for the Sixers, but again, probably better than Mike D'Antoni. So that's good for them. But again, it'll be interesting to see because, like I said, he's been an underachiever as a coach. You can argue. And this is a team that really can't afford to underachieve at this point. They're paying too much money to the roster for them to underachieve. But it'll be interesting to see how it all plays out. So we'll keep an eye out on that next year and also keep an eye out on some of these other head coaching vacancies that are still out there because there's quite a few. I think there's still 5 or 6 left currently. So as these continue to get filled, we will continue to discuss and talk about them. And speaking of giving us things to talk about, the MLB playoffs. Honestly, there was a lot of games played over the last 2 days. So we'll talk about them. But we'll start with the AL first, because the last time I did it all in one. But I think it'd be easier just to split them up as opposed to talking about 8 different series. Let's just talk about the 4 in the AL and the 4 in the NL. So we'll do AL first. So we'll discuss that right after the break. Stay right there.
Check out the show that's built on the MMA. From the UFC to extreme cage fighting, they got the fights covered. Check out the GSMC MMA podcast. Get the latest news on past or upcoming fights. Join us as we talk to and about some of the biggest names in the MMA, past, present, and future. When it's the fight game, there's just one show to check out. GSMCpodcast.com/MMA-podcast. Don't forget to like them on Facebook and follow them on Twitter. Visit GSMCpodcast.com for more info.
And we're back here again on the GSMC Sports Podcast, presented by GSMC Podcast Network. So we'll start with the one game that actually took place the one AL game that actually took place on Thursday. And that was the A's White Sox, Game 3 of that series. Obviously, the White Sox got off to a good start due to the great pitching from Lucas Giolito. The A's were able to bounce back in Game 2. Trying to find this, but I don't know why it won't show it to me. Oh yeah, but they were able to bounce back in Game 2, win that game 5-3, behind an early start to the scoring. They scored 4 runs in the first 2 innings. Well, 5 runs in the first 4, because they had another home run in the 4th. And the White Sox tried to get back into it. Grandal hit a home run to cut the lead to 3 off Liam Hendricks, who again was a great and has been a great reliever this year. He also walked that scored a run. He also walked who scored a run in the 9th with the bases loaded, but then Jose Abreu grounded out the second. I believe it might have been the first pitch after that. So again, we had a decisive winner-take-all Game 3, and that game was also won by the A's. And this was an interesting one only because the White Sox got off to a hot start. We're up 3-0, 3-0 after the first 3 innings. And some of the choices they made manager-wise were a bit interesting. Only because, so their starting pitcher, they started Dan Dunn. He didn't make it out of the first. Now, again, you could argue why he didn't make it out of the first, but he didn't make it out of the first. And that, again, couldn't have been the plan. He got a single, then got 2 straight outs, then Canna singled hit a single to deep left center, and that they was able to advance the runner to third, and then they took him out to bring in Crockett, a young guy, a rookie, I believe. I think Dunning was a rookie as well. To face Matt Olson, you struck him out, which is great. But again, it's just like, if you can't even let your starter complete an inning, then why is he starting? And again, I don't know how it would have went had he been in there, but if you were going to bring in a guy in the first inning, why not start him? And vice versa, if you're going to take a guy out in the first inning, why start him? This is an interesting choice. Obviously, worked out in the intermediate, but then also speaking of Crockett, he struck out the next guy to open the bottom of the second, and I think he had some sort of tightness in his arm. So he had to leave. So that was definitely unfortunate for them, because I don't imagine, especially after getting 2 straight strikes, I imagine he at least would have gone the rest of that inning, assuming things had gone well. And like I said, hopefully he doesn't need Tommy John or something like that to be out for the whole next season. That would be quite unfortunate for the White Sox, because he looked very good when he came up and started pitching for them. He's a hard-throwing lefty. I think he touched 100 almost every time he pitched. So yeah, that was big. But then obviously they brought in other relievers. I think how many relievers do they have in this game? They used 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. They used 9 different pitchers in this game, which is absurd for a 9-inning game. Like, again, this game didn't go to extras. Like, there was nothing. It wasn't like the Braves Reds game from, I guess, that would have been Wednesday. It's not like it was that one where it went 13 innings. You have to pitch a bunch of different guys. Like, no, he was just choosing. Rick Renteria, the manager, was just choosing to pitch a bunch of different guys at the same time. So it was interesting. Like I said, they got some runs via a 2-run homer in the fourth, to cut the lead to 3-2. Then they walked in 2 runs to give up the lead. And then on top of the fifth, the White Sox were able to get it back. But then in the bottom of the fifth, they gave it back up. And then the White Sox had chances throughout the end of that game, but they just weren't able to get it done. Like, they had multiple runners on in multiple innings, but unfortunately were not able to get it done. And the A's were able to end their 14 years of postseason futility. They had struggled winning series over the last 14 years. Not as bad as the Twins, who we will get to in a second. But again, they had their own struggles. But a lot of that was because they were playing in wild card games very often, and they kept on running in. Like I said, they kept on running into wild card situations, and then you lose that game, then your playoffs are over. Like, they were unfortunately in a tough division, especially over the last few years with the Astros. Being the cream of the crop. So you were stuck in the wild card, and then you could just get called out there some years. So it's unfortunate for them. But like I said, I think it was, I know definitely not in the ninth, because I think, no one really did a whole lot in the ninth. Hendricks came in and shut the door very easily. But in the eighth, they got 2 guys on, a Brave ground into a double play. In the seventh, they got 2 guys on. They end up with the bases loaded. And then the Engel ground up to second. So again, they had chances with guys on base, but they just weren't able to get that big hit that the Padres were in their game, which we'll talk about in the next segment. But again, they're a young team. They were just a little, they just weren't ready for the moment. And they probably needed one more good starting pitcher, which again is something they can work on next year. Maybe try to go after like a Trevor Bauer or like a Marcus Stroman or somebody in free agency that will be available, just to get them a third arm. Because you got Giolito, you got Keuchel, or just hope, I don't know if you hope like Kopech or the reliever that opted out, or like Dunning or like Crockett or somebody else can kind of step up and have that role. But you probably need you need 3 starters in the playoffs, unless you're going to have an amazing bullpen, which they did have a good bullpen, but a lot of their bullpen was rookies. So it's cool that they got this, or young guys. It's cool they got this experience for a lot of their younger guys. But again, it's hard to count on younger guys in their first postseason. Again, all right, this will be good experience. They'll be ready for the next one. But again, even some of the vet guys like Tim Anderson and Jose Abreu, like this is their first time in the playoffs. Now, they played relatively well, all things considered, especially Tim Anderson. I think he set the record for most hits in their first 3 postseason games. But again, situation where they clearly they weren't ready yet. I thought they would be, but again, they weren't ready yet, and it'll be interesting to see how they use this in the coming season. Well, I guess in the next season, I should say. And also, if Rick Renteria is still the manager, kind of from reading from Twitter, a lot of White Sox fans don't want him there anymore. But again, you got the team to the playoffs. They vastly improved from last year to this year. So again, it's be an interesting thing to see if they keep him around for one more year. But yeah, shout out to the A's. They got it done. And then on Wednesday, like I said, all the other series ended Wednesday. So we'll start with the Twins, who have now lost a record 18 straight postseason games, dating back to 2004, which is absurd. Absurd. Like, again, it's not even just like you lost. Like, again, the A's had their own situation. But again, a lot of them were in the wild card. Like, they weren't losing, like, games. They were losing series. Like, they weren't advancing. Like, that's unfortunate. But again, it's a little different. They've lost 18 straight postseason games. 18 straight. Like, again, that's multiple series. Like, they've just been getting swept. And even in 2-game series, you still got swept. So, again, that's something they're going to have to get their pound away to get that monkey off their back, because that is crazy. I think it's the longest postseason losing streak in any of the major sports. I thought I remember reading that on Wednesday. It's absurd. But how did it happen? Like I said, they got some bad luck in the fourth. I think the little hit that Kyle Tucker had kind of just snuck through an area in the infield. Then they were able to get it back on a Nelson Cruz double. to deep left, though, a player was thrown out at home, so that hurt a little bit. Because then they could have been up 2-1 instead of tied 1-1. And then Carlos Correa hits a home run in the 7th, gives them a 2-1 lead, and then Cossack was able to add on another run in the 9th to get him to 3-1. And again, that's the thing about the Astros. And that's the thing about championship caliber teams. As we saw with the Raptors, you see it with teams that, hey, they may not be as good as they once were when they won their championship, but something about that experience is important. Especially when you're going up against teams like the Twins, who don't have that experience, or all the experience is just bad experience because they haven't won anything. Having that will, and even though like I said they haven't had a good season, they've struggled. A lot of the guys didn't hit that well. They don't have the same, again, they don't have the same rotation. They don't have the same bullpen that maybe they've had in other years. But they still have a lot of the guys, like, again, Springer, Correa, Altuve, Gurriel, Reddick, Brantley. Like, a lot of these guys were, and Brantley didn't win the World Series with them, but a lot of these other guys were around Bregman. A lot of these guys were around for that championship. So they know what it's like. A lot of them were around for the World Series last year. So they know what it's like to go through these moments and show up and get big hits and big moments and big spots, which is obviously what Carlos Correa did for them. He's probably been one of, if not their best postseason hitter, at least throughout this recent stretch. Obviously, again, maybe not the best, but he's getting up there, especially even at a young age. I think he's only in his mid-20s. It seems like he's been around for forever, but I believe he's only in like his mid-20s. Like, yeah, he's only 26. He just turned 26. So he's not that old. He's going to be around for a while. But yeah, like, that experience is important. So you know, like, hey, look, in a big spot, I know Carlos Correa can come through. I know Bregman can come through. I know Springer. I know Altuve. Even though the season they had is what they had, we know that we can come through in these moments. So now it'd be interesting because now they're playing the A's, who is a team that they know, and the A's know them. So that'll be an interesting dynamic. See how that plays out. Again, the only thing I didn't like is them saying, like, oh, they got all this hate and they're using it as fuel and different things. Like, the hate is warranted. Like, it's not like people just don't like you because, like, you're winning. It's not like the Heat. It's not the Warriors. Like, people hate on the Warriors. Things like people hate on the Patriots, even though they cheated as well. But it's not like that where people hate you just because you win all the time. Like, no, people hate you because you got cheated. Like, that's a fact. And you didn't show any remorse or didn't seem that regretful or that didn't feel that or didn't show any sort of sorrow or I don't know if sorriness is the right word, but no one feels as if you're sorry about doing it. You're just sorry you got caught. And like I said, that's kind of the era or aura that they give off in terms of, like, they're just like, hey, it happened, is what it is, get over it kind of thing. And, like, no, people have the right to be mad, especially teams that you beat in the playoffs. Or careers you may or may not have derailed or ruined, different things. Like, they have other players and fans have a right to be mad. So, yeah, they should just be happy there's not any fans in the stands. So, no, they're not getting the boos and things like that. But still, like, that kind of talk from Correa and some of those guys, I was like, yeah, come on, guys. Like, there's a reason why people were angry with you guys. But again, we'll see how it plays out. Again, like I said, they play the A's now, so that'd be an interesting dynamic. Interesting to see how that works. Again, this is a team. These guys know each other. They're division rivals. The A's have seen what the Astros have done over the years in their own division and also in the playoffs, so they're kind of going to want to get that back, and they kind of got their own proverbial monkey off their back. But again, the Astros are battle-tested, and we'll see if that matters. So yeah, other games we'll touch on the Rays. The Rays just, they did what I kind of figured they were going to do to the Blue Jays. The Blue Jays weren't ready yet, and the Rays just got good pitching. Glass now was very good in his start. 6 innings, 6 hits, 2 runs, 8 Ks. Their bullpen was more or less lights out. Didn't give up any runs, only gave up 1 hit. And then, like I said, they scored 8 runs to the Jays 2. They got big hits from Zunino hit a home run, Renfroe hit a grand slam. I said Margot had another RBI. So, like I said, they got what I thought they would get. They got enough good play from the guys, and they got very good pitching. So, it's unfortunate, but again, you kind of knew this was going to happen with a division opponent in the first round. Like, the Rays were clearly better than Jays during the regular season. They know what to expect. They're not going to sneak up on them or surprise them with their rotation or their lineup, different things. Like, you knew who these guys are, and the Rays were the better team during the regular season, so it's not a shock they're the better team during the postseason. Though, we'll see how that plays in their next series, because they will be taking on the Yankees, who had quite a game with Cleveland. Very back and forth. Very much could have gone either way there up until the end, which was quite entertaining, at least for me. The Cleveland got off to, another team got off to a hot start. They were up 4-0 after the first inning. And yeah, they definitely got, well, also, there was the rain and delays and little things, so that might have hurt Tanaka, but he did not have a good postseason start, and he's very good in the postseason. 4 innings, 5 hits, 6 earned runs, 3 walks, only 3 strikeouts. Again, he was not good. But that lineup was quite good, and they got timely hits. So then, all right, so all this happens in the bottom of the first. They come up in the top of the second. Stanton hits a home run. So again, nothing too big, but they're slowly, at least they're not completely out of it. And then in the fourth, they come back. Hicks hits a triple on a ball that got misplayed by DeShields, if I remember correctly. But he kind of came in, slipped when he realized it was going over his head, and Hicks ended up with a triple. Voit walked. Stanton walked. Then they brought a new pitcher, and that pitcher immediately, I don't know if it was first pitch, but no, it was sixth pitch. But the first batter gives up a home run, grand slam to Urshela, and now all of a sudden, instead of being down or up 4-1, you're now down 5-4. And again, that just kind of changed the whole trajectory of the game, because you're like, the Yankees like, oh yeah, no, like we're going to be fine. Like, we're going to figure this out. And like I said, the Cleveland did not go away, even after the Yankees went up 6-4 on a sac fly by Stanton. They were able to get some runs back in the bottom of the fifth. The sac fly was in the top of the fifth. So they were able to get some runs back. Lindor had a single. Hernandez walked. Ramirez doubled to right. That tied the game up. So again, they're back into it. But then in the next inning, Gardner walks and Gary Sanchez hits a home run. So now the Yankees are back up. So like I said, it's very back and forth. And a little bit like what you would expect from a Yankees game. Because again, they're pitching, can be a little shoddy at times, but they can hit. So again, if you're gonna put up runs, the Yankees are gonna be right there with you putting up runs. So like I said, they went up 8-6. Then the Indians are able to battle back in the bottom of the seventh. They are able to get they get 2 more runs off a double from Jordan Luplow after he came in to pitch hit for Naylor, which was weird at the time because Naylor had been good for them over the first 2 games. Even this game, he was 1 for 3. So it's not like he'd been hitting poorly, but then again, the manager had a hunch. Hunch worked out. Luplow ties the game, which is big. Then in the bottom of the 8th, they bring it after. I don't want to pronounce his name wrong, but Losiaga, he's the guy that gave up the double, but he came in to pitch. He was still pitching in the bottom of the 8th. He walks 2 batters. They bring in Chapman. Chapman immediately gives up a single to Hernandez. Obviously, he's able to strike out Ramirez and get Carlos Santana ground to a double play, which is big that they didn't get more runs because then this happened. They had a guy on first and second. They had guys on first and second after the single with no outs. And then again, they get Ramirez a strikeout and they get hit into a double play. So he was able to get the top of their order out. And then the Yankees do what the Yankees do. And they were able to got a walk from Stanton, a single from Urshela. Torres reached on an infield single. Gardner struck out, but then Sanchez was able to hit a sacrifice fly to tie the game. And then LeMahieu does what he does, and that's get hits. And he singled to center. And Urshela, Urshela ended up scoring scored on the throwing error because the Shields did not make a good throw back in. And like I said, then Judge walked and Hicks struck out, but it was 10-9. And then Chapman came in and basically shut the door. He struck out the first batter, got Luplow to ground out, and then struck out the next batter, but then he reached first on a wild pitch, and then, just for good measure, Chapman struck out the next guy. So, again, 3 strikeouts for 4 outs. But again, it's just who the Yankees are. They're going to be able to hit. So if the Rays aren't able to combat that, they're going to have a problem on their hands because their lineup is more potent than your own lineup. So you're going to need your starting pitching to do its job. And it did during the season. But again, that 8-2 regular season record does not matter in the playoffs. All the records are thrown out. So we'll talk about that and preview that down the line. And then I guess because again, all those games started out next week, so we'll preview that on the Monday for the Monday pod. But again, you got 2 division matchups, which is going to be very interesting to me because again, these aren't teams that aren't used to each other. These aren't teams that don't know what to expect from each other. No, and played you guys, especially this year where you guys played you played your own division and the division geographically located near you in the opposite league. So they played these guys a lot, even in the 60-game season. So you know what to expect. Like I said, the Rays dominated the Yankees during the season, but again, now everybody's back healthy. Everybody's back hitting good. Like they're feeling good about themselves. Like they hit very well these two playoff games. Though, again, so did the Rays. But their pitching is what's going to potentially harm them, because again, Cole was good, but Tanaka wasn't, and that's who you're expecting to be your second starter, so that's going to be interesting to see how that plays out. And then, like I said, A's, Astros, again, teams that know each other, that played a lot of games against each other, at least in the regular season, not as much in the playoffs. But, again, they're not going to be any surprises. You know what to expect. So, should be interesting to look at there. So, we'll touch on that, like I said, in the next pod. But after we come back, we'll touch on the NL, because they had some good games there as well, and we're going to get, I think we're only going to get one Game 3. So both series, or both leagues only got one Game 3, if I remember correctly. We'll double check that when we come back, but we'll discuss that right after the break. Stay right there.
Are you looking for help for your fantasy football team? Check out the GSMC Fantasy Football Podcast. Get today's best advice on who to start, who to sit, even who you should draft. From sleeper picks to red-hot lineups, they got it all covered for you. That's gsmcpodcast.com/fantasy-football-podcast. We'll cover traditional leagues, dynasty, PPR, even IDP leagues. When you need fantasy help, there's just one show to hit up. Don't forget to like them on Facebook and follow them on Twitter. Visit gsmcpodcast.com for more info.
And we're back here again on the GSMC Sports Podcast, presented by GSMC Podcast Network. So, we'll start with the one game that wasn't played today, and that was Marlins Cubs. It was postponed due to weather, I believe. Though, on Wednesday, the Marlins were able to capture game one of that series, 5-1. It's unfortunate, though, for them due to the fact that their starting outfielder, Sterling Marte, I believe, broke his wrist. Or, he got hit with the pitch. And he's done for the series. Oh, no. Let me take that back. Because he said he broke his left hand, but he said he's day-to-day, so I don't know how that works. I thought he was done. But now, I was reading some news on the ESPN app, but apparently he's available, I guess to run, which I guess makes some sense due to the fact that he is a good runner. But I'm like, I don't know if I want you sliding into a base and having to use your left hand. Potentially to have to tag the base. Don't we know how that's going to work? But yeah, I guess we'll kind of see what happens whenever they start back up. But yeah, they were able to get the win. They had a good outing from Sandy Alcantara. He pitched 6 2/3. Only gave up 1 run, 3 hits, 3 walks, and 4 Ks. The 1 run was the Ian Happ home run. They were able to get a big home run from Corey Dickerson, who had a 3-run shot in the top of the 7th. Also got a 2-run shot from Jesus Aguilar in the top of the 7th. So, again, all 5 of their runs came in 1 inning, but again, still. It doesn't matter how you score their runs as long as you score their runs. And their bullpen completely shut the Cubs down, only give up 1 hit, in 2 1/3. So, it was an interesting decision by the Cubs to not start Darvish. They went with Hendricks, and he didn't pitch terribly. 5 hits, 3 earned runs, and 6 1/3. But again, just interesting. So I guess they're saving him for game 2. But their bullpen was good after Jeffries. But yeah, everybody else in their bullpen was solid. So again, interesting choice by them. But again, see if it works out. And see if they're able to win game 2, and then obviously force a game 3. I guess they should be playing game 2 on Friday. Yeah, they're going to be playing game 2 on Friday, 2 p.m. on ABC. So probably, that's East Coast time, obviously. So it'll probably already be happening. It may have already happened by the time you hear this. But for the games that were played, we will start with the earliest one, Braves-Reds. The Braves got the Reds up out of here. And it's unfortunate. It's kind of something that I expected. Like I said, the Reds have good starting pitching, but they can't hit. And the Braves can hit, and they have at least one solid pitcher in Fried, and Ian Anderson came up big in his playoff debut. In Game 2 of this series, he pitched 6 innings, 2 hits, 9 Ks, 2 walks. So he was exceptional for them. And then again, they was able to turn over to that bullpen, and the bullpen shut down the Reds. The Reds only had 2 hits in this game. Only had, what was it? I believe they only had I'm trying to think of how many hits they had in Game 1. They had, looking up the box score now, they had 11. So again, at least they got more hits. But again, that game went 13 innings. They didn't score a single run. So over the course of 22 innings in this series, in these 2 games, they did not scratch across a single run. And again, you're not gonna win that way. You can't win games where you can't score, no matter how good your pitching is. Like I said, they held the Braves to 6 hits and 1 run in Game 1, and yet they still lost. While they had 11 hits. Just because they could never, every time, especially in the extra innings, they were getting people on base, they just couldn't get the time to hit, and that's what, and again, that matters in every game, but it matters more in the playoffs due to the fact that the games mean more. And you just need timely hitting. You need guys who can get clutch hits with 2 outs, with 2 strikes, late in games, in high leverage situations, runners on base, things like that, and the Reds could not do that at any point during this series. And that's why they're going home. So again, not unsurprising, kind of something you figured. But this will be interesting for the Braves to see how things continue for them, because they can get good enough starting pitching. Again, clearly their lineup is going to be fine, relatively speaking. Again, no one really, outside of Acuna, no one really hit that great in the series. But again, when you get a RBI double from him, you get a 2-1 homer from Ozuna, you get a 2-1 home run from Adam Duvall. Again, you get hits when you need them. That almost matters more than getting hits at all. If you get a bunch of hits, if your guy goes 3 for 3 or 3 for 4, but it's all to lead off the inning, but no one drives him home. All right, he had a good day, but does it really matter? Or would I rather guy go 1 for 4, but that one be a 2-1 shot like it was for Aaron Judge in Game 1 of that series to kind of get the ball rolling? Again, he was pretty pedestrian most of the rest of the series, but that one hit was the big one for the Yankees, and it kind of, again, got things going for them, got the ball rolling, and then, like I said, they were able to build on that in Game 1, and obviously continue to build on it in Game 2, but Aaron Judge himself didn't really do a whole lot. It was 0 for 4 in Game 2, like I said, 1 for 5 in Game 1, but again, the first hit, the only hit he got in that series was a big one. So like I said, sometimes that matters more than getting a bunch of hits in non-high leverage situations. So, like I said, that'll be interesting to see how that continues for the Braves, so that they were able to do that in this series, and we'll see how it plays out in the next series. I think they're playing the winner of the Cubs-Marlins, so that'd be interesting if they end up playing the Marlins again. The other game, because like I said, I want to save the Padres game for last. That was obviously the game of the night. Dodgers, Brewers. Kershaw put on a sensational performance. Struck out 13 batters over the course of, I think he pitched 8 innings. 8 innings, 3 hits, 13 Ks, 1 walk. One of, if not his best postseason performance ever. And that's interesting only because there's no fans. And I wondered about this because obviously if you watched the Padres games, you saw how much the lack of fans, in my opinion, could have affected, or did affect, I don't want to say did affect that game because obviously the Padres won, but just like the lack of fans when they were getting some of those hits that they got, which again we'll talk about in a second if you haven't already seen the game, would have been so much cooler, and those moments would have been so much greater with fans in the stands. And obviously they're at Dodger Stadium for Kershaw, so that doesn't really play that much of a factor. But I am kind of curious how some of these guys, and again it goes for the NBA, maybe went for NHL, as well didn't watch as much of those playoffs. But it's interesting to see like these guys that normally kind of struggle in the postseason, obviously Kershaw being one of them. I think I saw a stat on ESPN across the bottom that he had like the highest postseason ERA for a guy that has 100 innings pitched or something like that. And again, he's a perennial. Again, choker. I don't want to use those kind of harsh terms, but he's relatively underachieved in the postseason comparative to his regular season performance. Kind of like a Peyton Manning. Or like he's a guy that was great in the regular season, but for some reason he gets to postseason and he struggles. But now, like I said, it's interesting to see that he pitches well and whether or not having fans in stands will help him in the postseason. I said maybe that some added pressure from not having fans there watching and booing or cheering or different things like that. Like sometimes, like again, the fans can get to you, and in good or bad way. Sometimes they give you extra juice. Sometimes it could cause you to be a little bit more nervous. But again, there's no fans. It's just you and the catcher and obviously all your teammates and stuff like that. But again, it's just you and him out there. You don't have to focus on any of the noise. I'll call the crowd noise like fake or whatever. It's not the same thing. Obviously, guys still get excited and stuff when big moments happen, but it's not not hearing how many ever thousands of people out of game cheering or holding their breath or letting out a groan after a big hit or like missing or like a walk or something like that. You don't have to worry about that. So it's interesting to see how that plays out. But he was great. Felt bad for Woodruff for the Brewers. He pitched great as well up until the fifth inning, where he gave up the 3 runs one on a single to Barnes and then 2 on a double to Mookie Betts, paying dividends already. He hit .429 over the course of the 2 games, so he was very good for them. But again, he was pitching well up until that point. He had 9 Ks in 4 2/3. But again, 5 hits, 3 runs. The rest of their bullpen came in and was good for the Brewers. But at the same time, it just wasn't. Like I said, they couldn't do anything off of Kershaw. And like I said, in the first game, they didn't do a whole lot either. Yeah, I mean 4-2. That was 4-2. Only got 2 runs. Both came in the 4th on a home run, but again, at that point, they were already down 3-2. And so yeah, just one of those unfortunate things where they kind of had to go with, because they kind of had to go with a full bullpen day, and it hurts when your best bullpen arm, Devin Williams, couldn't make the wildcard roster due to an injury, I believe. So that hurt, not having him be allowed to pitch. But again, he was a rookie, so who knows how he would have fared in his first postseason appearance. But again, just unfortunate for them. But again, the Brewers weren't that good this year, so you kind of didn't expect them to beat the Dodgers, who were the best team in baseball. So, unsurprising there. But now we get to the game of the night. Padres, Cardinals. This game, minus the fans, because the fans at Petco Park would have went crazy for some of these home runs, is everything that postseason baseball, in my opinion, is about. Like same with the Yankees, Cleveland. Like the back and forth, the big hits, the big pitches, the big moments, all that stuff. That's what playoff baseball is. Every moment, every pitch seeming to matter so much. And the Padres were in bad shape after already losing. They lost the first game. And I think just like the White Sox, if I remember correctly, they struggled to hit with runners in scoring position. Plus, obviously, Paddock was terrible. He gave up 4 runs in the first inning, and they were down 6-2 by the third. And yeah, they chipped away here and there, but they just weren't able to come up with that big time hit that they were able to come up with in this game, which again makes a difference. So again, they got out. They were down early, down 4-0 after 2 innings. Who started for them? It was Davies. Davies didn't have great stuff. 5 hits, 4 runs, in 2 innings. But then again, they were just able to chip away. They got 2 in the 4th. And I think the 4th, and that's the funny thing about the early in the game, like they were getting chances, mainly Tatis Jr. They were getting chances with guys on base, and they just weren't able to capitalize. Like Tatis Jr., not just him, but after Cronenworth walked with the bases loaded, Grisham and Tatis Jr. struck out back-to-back to end the inning. Then in the bottom of the 6th, they got 2 on base. Grisham walked. No. So hold on, I'm thinking of where was because that was the one in the 4th. That was the second time, if I remember correctly. I think Tatis Jr. struck out another time. Yeah, he struck out another time with 2 runners on. Well, they struck him and Machado struck out back to back with 2 runners on in the bottom of the 3rd when they was still 4-0. The Cronenworth got a single. Grisham had walked, and then Tatis Jr. struck out, swinging out. He foul tipped the ball into Yadier Molina's glove, which is an exceptional play by him. I don't know how he caught that. And then Machado struck out. And the 6th inning is where things turned around for them. But also, in fairness, the Cardinals had added more runs in that inning, so it was important for them. They came into that inning instead of being down 4-2 when they started, they were down 6-2 after a double by Fowler and Wong grounding out to the pitcher and different things. Like, they were able to get a couple runs across. And then, like I said, the bottom of the 6th innings is where everything clicked for the Padres, and then they never really looked back. Like I said, Nola walked, Cronenworth walked, Grisham struck out. Then Tatis Jr. came up with his moment of the playoffs up until that point when he had another one, which we'll get to in a second. He hit a 3-run homer. And then Machado, after him, hit a solo homer. And next thing you know, Slam Diego's back, and now the ball game's tied. Then, like I said, that's just kind of who they are. They've, especially Tatis Jr., I believe during the game they showed he hit almost 320, 330, something like that with runners in score position during the season. So he'd been great in those moments. Obviously, the first couple of times he had struggled. But he'd been great in those moments throughout the regular season. And again, Gallegos, he hung a breaking ball a little bit. Again, it wasn't a bad pitch, but it didn't break down as much as you would have liked. And Tatis Jr. put a good swing on it, and that went out. And then, like I said, Machado came back, got a high fastball, hit that one out. And like I said, San Diego was back in business. Then next inning, Will Myers hit a home run. Then Tatis Jr. hit his second home run. This one opposite field. I mean, pimped that one. Tossed the bat, looked at it, everything I would want to do if I were him in that moment. So shout out to him for being able to actually do it. But again, it's just great. It's just like those are the kind of moments that would have set Petco Park on fire if there were fans actually there. So it's an unfortunate situation that they weren't able to have fans. But again, still, regardless, fans or no fans, they still got the big hits in those moments. So shout out to Tatis Jr. for that. Then, again, because the Cardinals did not go away lightly, they got 2 runs in the top of the 8th, both on sacrifice flies after they got Carpenter got hit by a pitch, and then Tatis Jr. threw the ball away on an infield single to get runners to second and third. So again, they were just kind of playing to get to contact, not really giving up the home run kind of thing. So that was big. Within the bottom of the 8th, Will Myers came up, got himself another home run. This one a 2-run shot. And like I said, just give them some more insurance, which they didn't turn out to need, because in the top of the 9th, Goldschmidt started out the game with a home run. Then they got 2 more guys on base with no outs, but then Rosenthal was able to get DeYoung to pop out, Carpenter to strike out on the pitch in there, and then Fowler ground out the first. So they were able to get out of the inning. But it was definitely dicey there for a second. They had the winning run, or the go-ahead run, not winning, but go-ahead run up at the plate in the top of the 9th, which is not what you want when you came to the inning with a 3-run lead. But like I said, that game was great, and it should be fun again tomorrow. Don't know who they're going to pitch, because obviously Lamet is out, and Clevenger's out, so we'll see if either of those guys are able to come back for the next series, but obviously they're going to need somebody to pitch Game 3. Don't know who they're going to choose for that one. Like I said, I know Cardinals are going with Flaherty, Jack Flaherty. Young guy, 24, hadn't been that good during the season, but hey, all you need is one good outing. That's really all you need in the playoffs. So I don't know what the Padres are going to do. But again, if their bats look like that, they're never out of a game. Doesn't matter how big the lead is. And that's what's important. That's what's big for them. What has been big for them throughout the year. They've been the best comeback team, I think they said, especially late in games, 7th, 8th, 9th. Like they're never out of a game because they have that kind of power all over their lineup. Like they have guys that can hit home runs. And like I said, and they have guys that hit well in scoring position, move around in scoring position, hit well in clutch moments. So that's what you want in a lineup. And again, they don't seem afraid. Now, again, they may lose Game 3 tomorrow, or today, when you guys are hearing this. And it will all be for naught. But at the same time, at the very least, they're young guys getting this experience. This is big for them. Getting the win would be even bigger. But again, just forcing a Game 3 when you're down 4-0 in the game where I think they hadn't overcome a 4-1 deficit in the playoff game in years. So this was a big moment for them, for the team, for the franchise, everything. Like I said, it's unfortunate that fans weren't there to see it. But at the end of the day, it's still a great game. And like I said, it should be a fun one. Especially if, like I said, the Cardinals are going to continue to hit. Because they haven't had this kind of pop and haven't had this kind of production in their lineup all year. But again, regular season is not the playoffs. You kind of got to throw everything you thought about the regular season or thought about these teams heading into the playoffs out because, again, this is a brand new season. Especially in baseball. There's so much randomness, so much crazy things that can happen. It's not always going to be exactly the same. So, like I said, it was a fun one. Should be good. So hopefully the Cubs and Marlins can play. So we'll get that game. And then obviously we'll get the Padres-Cardinals before, I think, Game 2 of the finals. I think Game 2 of the finals starts at 9, if I remember correctly. This game starts at 7 p.m. Eastern Time. Again, a little bit earlier on the West Coast. But, again, it should be fun. I'm excited. Yeah, I mean, the White Sox are already out, but I want the Padres at least in. Because, again, those two teams could be the future of the MLB, as we've already talked about on this podcast. So you want to see them at least continue in the playoffs, get to see cool moments from Tatis Jr. continue, Machado, Grisham, Cronenworth, Myers, Profar, whoever for the Padres. You want they're a fun team to watch. So I want to keep watching them. So hopefully they can get the win. But again, the Cardinals got a lot of vet guys over there. They're not going to go down lightly, especially if their lineup is continuing to hit. And I don't know what the Padres are going to do for a starting pitcher in Game 3. So we'll see what kind of happens there. But it should be fun nonetheless. And speaking of fun, obviously we got a full slate of games, NFL and college, to look forward to. So we will discuss all of them. And we'll discuss the ones I'm looking forward to watching, different things I'm looking forward to right after the break. So stay right there.
Are you looking to get your college football fix? Looking to get the latest news on your favorite school's team? The GSMC College Football Podcast is your ticket to all things college football. Join us as we talk college football from the national championship, the college rivalries, the bowl game, to the Heisman Trophy. To which conference is the best? We've got you covered for the Big Ten, SEC, Big 12, the Pac-12, ACC, and everything in between. Download the GSMC College Football Podcast on iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, Google Play, or anywhere you find podcasts. Just type GSMC in the search bar.
One of the games I'm looking forward to watching is Georgia-Auburn, matchup of the number 4 and number 7 team currently in the country. And this would be an interesting one because I believe JT Daniels is cleared to play. Now, I'm interested to see if he does play, but I believe he is cleared to play, so he could be the starting quarterback for the Georgia Bulldogs in this game. This matchup at home. Auburn obviously have Bo Nix starting, but it'd be interesting to see kind of how they do. It's an early season clash. These are two teams that could be fighting for college football playoff spots, depending on how the rest of their season goes. So it's the big early season matchup for those guys. And also be interesting to see kind of how Seth Williams continues, because last week when Auburn they played Kentucky, and he was dominant in that game. He had 8 receptions for I think 100 plus yards. Yeah, 6 receptions, excuse me. Didn't even have 8. 6 receptions, 112 yards, and 2 touchdowns. He was looked like a man amongst boys out there. And again, Georgia is not Kentucky, so that'd be interesting to see how that plays out. But yeah, like I said, this is a big early season SEC matchup in a season that is going to be a little weird. Going to have these weird kind of matchups every week, so that'd be an interesting one for me, at least to watch. Due to the fact that could have serious implications on the college football playoff later on down the line. Another top matchup I'm looking at is Texas and TCU. Obviously, Texas is the better team and should probably win, but I'm interested to see how they come out after that near debacle last game against Texas Tech, where it took them to overtime. This need to come back the last couple minutes. It was a lot. And especially with the Oklahoma game looming large the next week, you wonder if you don't want to, again, you normally trap games you reserve for pros, but you don't want them to look past TCU. Especially you really can't, especially when you almost lost to Texas Tech, in my opinion. So that's another one I'm paying attention to see how Texas comes out in this game. Is this going to be who they are? Are they a team that's going to be a little on shaky ground? Or are they going to be a team that's going to get right so that they're feeling good and feeling confident about themselves heading to Oklahoma performance, regardless of what Oklahoma did? Obviously, we already know Oklahoma lost to Kansas State, who is another team Texas will have to play later on in the year. But again, at the end of the day, it's still Oklahoma, and that's still a team that Texas has had trouble with the last few years. So it'll be interesting to see how they're feeling heading into that game. Like I said, on the heels of the Texas Tech game, and like again, making sure they get right, don't overlook TCU at all. And like I said, on the same note, Oklahoma has a game against Iowa State, who, again, they should beat, but they also should be in Kansas State. So again, you can't put anything past them. But again, you got to see, again, the same thing for them. Is that, like, is this season going to be derailed before it starts? Or are you going to be able to bounce back before your Texas game? Because that Texas game is basically a must-win from Oklahoma. I mean, it becomes almost irrelevant if they don't win this game coming up. But that Texas game is literally a must-win. You can't have more than 2 losses, especially from a Big Ten. You can't have more than 1 loss, especially from the Big 12, and expect to be in the college football playoff, which I imagine is where Oklahoma wants to be at. So, like I said, that'll be another interesting one because they got to bounce back. They got to make sure they get right ahead of, again, the Texas matchup. You can't afford to drop another game. Like, you had your one mulligan for the year, basically. If you lose another game before Texas or outside Texas, like, you're screwed. And then if you lose to Texas, you're definitely screwed, assuming Texas also doesn't slip up. But then you need Texas to slip up twice because you would have already lost the game. Like, it'll be a whole mess. So like I said, you can't really afford to have that happen. So, again, we'll see how that plays out with those. Like I said, college football-wise is some of the games we're looking forward to. And then when we talk about the NFL slate, there's a lot of different storylines to look at. One being, obviously, Nick Foles is now officially the starter. They play, I think they're previewing this with the Jets Broncos, which was surprisingly good, but we'll talk about Adam Gase in the next segment. But yeah, so it's now officially Nick Foles' team, assuming he doesn't get hurt, knock on wood. But yeah, it'll be interesting to see how they play. If they look any different. Obviously, they looked good in that fourth quarter. But again, Mitch had a good fourth quarter as well against the Lions. And also they were playing the Falcons, who we now know are just, we know they're just gonna, this is just who they are this year. They're not gonna be that good. You think. Again, who knows, maybe they rattle off, like, they go on like a 10-3 run 10 in the season and finish like 10-6. Who knows? I wouldn't believe it based on what I've seen the first 3 weeks. But again, who never knows? Football is unpredictable like that. But again, you want to see if the team looks different, if the offense looks different now when Nick Foles at the helm, obviously, because again, it's easy to say like they're being held back by Mitch. As a guy who doesn't think Mitch is that good, it's not surprising to me. And again, it's not his fault. He should not have been drafted number 2 overall. It is what it is. Ryan Pace and the Bears brass should have done a better job scouting the quarterbacks, and they could have picked Deshaun Watson, could have picked Patrick Mahomes, whatever. Don't know why they went with Mitch, but hey, it is what it is. So again, it's not his fault. And he's had his chances. But it was clear that there was going to be, I don't know if it was clear it was going to be a short leash, but they didn't bring in Nick Foles to just give the job to Mitch and let him play the whole season now. Like, based off of last year and after what happened last year, they're like, we can't afford to waste our opportunities again. Like, we need to capitalize on a defense that's going to be good, on skilled players that are good. Obviously, they lost to Cohen, which hurts a little bit. Gives them a dynamic element out of the backfield in the pass game. But again, you can't afford to waste another year of Khalil Mack's prime, Eddie Jackson's prime, Kyle Fuller's prime. I don't know if Akeem Hicks you would argue is still in his prime, but you can't afford to waste another year. That Robert Quinn can't afford to waste another year of those guys. So you need to maximize it. And say right now they're 3-0, and they fold out the helm, so we'll be able to see, and we'll be interested to see if that continues. And again, also just was the offense being held back by Mitch? Was it being held back by Matt Nagy? This will really tell the tale. Again, if Nick Foles thinks that maybe it's also partly Nick Foles isn't. Again, I think he's a fine quarterback, but he's not a top 5, top 10 quarterback. But he's not one of those guys. He's just the guy that's generally not going to lose you games. He's not always going to win you games. But he generally isn't bad enough to lose you games, where Mitch was sometimes losing them games. So that would be the big difference for them. So that would be big. But also, again, we see, does Matt Nagy call the offense different? Does the offense run differently with Nick Foles in there? It'll be an interesting thing to look at. Obviously, play the Colts, who have been a stingy pass defense this year so far. But again, the Colts haven't necessarily played the best teams. Like, they played the Jets, who aren't that great. They played Minshew, who kind of did a number on them. And then they played Kirk Cousins, who is good or bad depending on which Kirk shows up. So, that's an interesting one I'm looking at. What's another one? I'm also interested in Patriots Chiefs, obviously. That's probably the best matchup, at least in terms of record wise. It would have been Steelers Titans, but again, obviously that game, we'll talk about that in a second. But yeah, Patriots Chiefs, again, the Patriots have been a team that have given the Chiefs troubles up until they didn't even play them last year, because they lucked out, and the Patriots lost to the Titans in round 1, so they didn't have to play them. But again, they'd given them problems in the past. Mahomes struggled with them in the 2018 season. Obviously, lost to them both in the regular season and the postseason that year. So again, it's been a team he's had to work to get the better of. But again, it's a different quarterback, different situation now with Cam Newton in there. Also, a different dynamic for the Chiefs defense. Obviously, you're used to defending Tom Brady, who's a stationary in the pocket, gonna pick you apart that way. But Cam Newton is more of a mobile guy, can run around. They'll call plays for him, running the ball. Again, he's not a terrible thrower of the football, but he's not as deadly accurate as Tom Brady is when he's on. So it's something you got to be mindful of. But again, as I said earlier this week, the Chiefs are probably the best team in the NFL right now, and this is a game for them to showcase that. Because again, this is another good team they're playing against. They just got through dismantling the Ravens. This again would be another feather in their cap to start the year. Then again, they're going to have a couple more because they play the Raiders coming up next week, and then they play the Bills on Thursday night. So they're going to have chances to show people we really are that team. And then this would be a good step in continuing to show these guys. Obviously everybody knows after the Ravens game, but just no, that wasn't just a fluke. We can really, we got to show the levels between us and the other quote-unquote top teams in the AFC. And this would be a big step in helping to show that is beating the Patriots and beating them pretty handedly. I think they're 7-point favorites at home. So we'll see how that plays out. That's another big one. Also, I guess we'll talk about one more, then we'll talk about the Steelers Titans. Also, just from a personal standpoint, I am going to at least mildly pay attention. Actually, no. I'm not going to talk about the Eagles because they're sorry. Their team is banged up. They're probably going to get smoked by the Nick Mullins and George Kittle, so that's going to be a lot of fun. But yeah, they stink right now. There's no reason to talk about that game. So I will talk about instead the Bills and the Raiders. Excuse me, not Ravens, Raiders. This is an interesting one. Obviously, the Bills came off a big comeback win last week against the Rams, and the Raiders are still trying to show people that they are a legitimate contender in the AFC. Like I said, if you beat one of the better non-Chiefs teams, who they will get to play next week, so this is this is a big 3-week stretch for them after the Saints game to prove who they were, or who they are, I guess you would say, in the NFL. Like I said, they played the Patriots, who beat them handedly, played the Bills, and played the Chiefs. Like I said, they need to kind of bounce back to show people, or else people are going to be oh, okay. They are who we thought they were, going to be a borderline playoff team, as opposed to this team is one of the better teams in the conference kind of thing. Like I said, that'd be a big one. They're going to have to try to find a way to slow down Josh Allen, who, if he continues to play the way he's playing, will be on the short list for MVP candidates, at least through the first month of the season. Obviously, Russell Wilson, Mahomes, those kind of guys are at the top of the list, but Josh Allen, based on what he's done so far this year, is up there. He's over 1,000 yards through 3 games, 10 touchdowns, 1 interception. Obviously, he does have some fumbles and things like that, but the team's 3-0. And again, that matters in these votes, your record of your team and how you're playing and how important you are to that team. Josh Allen has been very important to the success of the Bills so far this year. And again, obviously, the comeback happening partly because he slowed down a little bit because they got up to a big lead, then they came back. The Rams came back, but they were able to get the last drive there at the end, which again is why no one really cares about them blowing the lead, which is, we would have had a different conversation had that happened, but it didn't. And Josh Allen was a big part of that. So again, this is a good test for the Raiders to see kind of where they're at. And also a good test for the Raiders because again, the Bills have a very solid defense. So it's not, this isn't some slouch, it isn't some sorry team you're going up against. No, this is a very solid team all the way around. So you got to find a way to stop Josh Allen, kind of slow his roll a little bit. And also, again, you got to find a way to score some points on that Bills defense, who, again, obviously was not as stingy as they can be against the Rams, though they were early. They just weren't as much late. And even the Dolphins put a good amount of points on them. So again, they're not completely shut down, but in general they have a solid team. So again, you have to put up some points, and I imagine, especially if Josh Allen continues the way he's been playing, to beat them. So that should be a fun one. Another late window game. So yeah, the last game I wanted to touch on was the Steelers-Titans game that will no longer be going down week 4 after, again, more Titans players tested positive, so it wasn't worthwhile. So that game, the game has been postponed. According to the statement from the NFL, additional player from the Titans tested positive, 1 more personnel tested positive for COVID-19 on Thursday. The Titans added Christian Fulton to their reserve COVID list on Thursday. This comes after 4 players had already tested positive and 5 personnel members. Mike Vrabel said on Wednesday that some of the players who tested positive were experiencing flu-like symptoms, so they are not asymptomatic, which a lot of guys were. And they said the decision to postpone the game was made to ensure the health and safety of players, coaches, and game day personnel. It originally was supposed to be postponed on Monday or Tuesday, but it sounds like it's not even worth it, which again makes sense. There's no reason to try to play the game this week, based on how many guys have tested positive. Though the Vikings, who played the Titans on Sunday, had no positive tests so far, and they apparently are going to play their game as scheduled. So that is interesting to kind of monitor going forward. Sources told Schefter that the most likely scenario for rescheduling will be to play the game in Week 7 on October 25th. The Titans' original bye week, the Steelers is scheduled to play at Baltimore that week, but both Steelers and Ravens have byes in Week 8, which would allow the NFL to make a change affecting only one other team. So I guess the Ravens schedule bye will now be Week 7 as opposed to Week 8. So just make sure you adjust your fantasy snaps accordingly. I believe that's how that will work. But yeah, it's like I said, it's unfortunate but not surprising. It hurts both of those teams now because now instead of playing, like I said, instead of having a bye, you have 13 straight games, which again, I don't think they'll really care about too much. But again, this is why trying to play these games without too much wiggle room is going to be an issue going forward. Because again, I don't think it's the last time this is going to happen. Especially after we saw what happened with the Raiders on Tuesday with them having the events with no mask, or with no masks present in the pictures. Again, apparently some guys said that they had the mask, but they took them off, different things, which, I mean, you shouldn't do, but whatever. But yeah, this isn't probably going to be the last time a team tests positive, especially after a game, so it's something we're going to have to monitor, and it's going to be something you have to pay attention to only because you're going to have limited, as the weeks go on, you're going to have limited chances to try to make these games up. Obviously, you were able to do it because of the bye weeks and things like that, but like if this happens in week 9, 10, 11, brothers just might be out of luck for a game. So, like I said, hopefully this allows them to be like, all right, what are the plans and what are the contingencies in place for if and when this happens again? Because again, you don't want to get caught off guard with this kind of stuff. That's the worst thing that can happen. When you don't really have a plan, you have to kind of configure a plan on the fly. So, like I said, that'll be interesting. But again, I'm not surprised that the game isn't going to be played due to the fact that with more people testing positive, there was no reason for them to try to play this game in this time frame, at least in my own personal opinion. But we'll see how it goes. So yeah, unfortunate for Titans, unfortunate for the Steelers, unfortunate for myself because I have the Steelers defense in fantasy. So I got to figure out a defense to pick up for the week. The Steelers defense is very good. Don't want to drop them. But also, hopefully this helps out A.J. Brown. He's also my fantasy team. I need him back healthy because my team is struggling. Michael Thomas will be back this week, which is nice. But again, my situation is very raggedy. My team is going down like flies, even though a fan got hurt today in the Thursday night game, so that hurt. But yeah, that's just selfish reasons why. Hopefully the bye will help them because maybe that'll mean A.J. Brown will be 1 week closer to playing. Hopefully, we'll see. Again, who knows? My fantasy team is in shambles early, and it looks so good draft night, and now it's already in shambles. So that's no fun. But yeah, like I said, it makes sense for the NFL to postpone that game and try to reschedule it. I think we'll potentially reschedule for Week 7 if that's an easy workaround. But again, we'll see how that plays out and what the official word is whenever that goes down. This being the Thursday night game, yeah, Adam Gase officially on the hot seat if he wasn't already. But is he on the hottest seat? I will give my opinion and my ranking on the top 5. And we'll walk the top 5 coaches on the hottest seats, if that makes sense. Obviously, 5 being the coolest, but still hot, and 1 being the hottest. So we'll discuss that right after the break. Stay right there.
Check out the show built around the women of MMA. From the UFC, Invicta FC, Bellator, and One Championship. We got the fights covered. It's the Golden State Media Concepts Women's MMA Podcast. The latest news of upcoming fights, discussions of previous matches. Join us as we talk to and about the biggest names in women's mixed martial arts. Past, present, and future. When it's the women's fight game, you know where to listen to. The Golden State Media Concepts Women's MMA Podcast.
And we're back here again on the GSMC Sports Podcast, presented by GSMC Podcast Network. So, like I said, after watching the Jets catch that L in a quite unfortunate fashion on Thursday night, it really got me thinking on who's on the hottest seat. Because obviously, if you're a Jets fan or you know any Jets fans, they want Adam Gase gone. And like I said, I don't know if it's because the quarterback's bad. I don't know if the quarterback is bad because Adam Gase is bad. I don't know if it's because their offensive line is in shambles. I don't know if it's because every receiver basically that they planned on having to start the year outside James and Crowder is like hurt or has been hurt at some point during the year. Their defense obviously traded away their best player, so that doesn't help. Their corners are hurt. So they got a lot of things wrong with that roster as to why they are currently 0-4, arguably the worst team in the league, depending on how you feel about the Giants or the Eagles or a couple other teams. But yeah, it's just, again, after watching that game, Sam Darnold again looked bad. The team, I mean, again, got 28, but the Broncos aren't that good. You should get more. They've really got helped out due to the fact that they got a pick six. And even outside of that, they got, they got 3 picks off of Rippon. I believe 2 of them were in the second half. So again, it's not like the team wasn't struggling before them. They were down 27-16 early in that fourth quarter. So again, they needed a little help from Rippon to get them back into the game in general. But at the end of the day, they lost. So apparently reports are he's not going to get fired to tomorrow or today when you guys hear this, which was apparently a potential report, but we don't really know if that was true or not. Obviously, some people said that his job was on the line in this game. We'll see how true that holds. But again, I think this is only his second. I think we went over this on the last episode, but I believe this is only his second season there. Yeah, if it wasn't the last episode, it was one of the last episodes. I believe it was only his second season there, which again is wild because it feels like he's been there forever. But yeah, just one of those things. Even last year, they were 7-9, which isn't that bad. But it's Adam Gase has a track record for not being the greatest head coach. The offense hasn't looked that good. He's supposed to be a quarterback whisperer. The quarterback's gotten worse, arguably, since his rookie year, or hasn't improved at all. And again, maybe that's him. Maybe that's the coach. We really don't know. But again, he's on that hot seat, in my opinion. Is he on the hottest seat, though? We'll talk about that. So, number 5, coming into my hot seat rankings, I would put Bill O'Brien, and I'm only saying this because I believe he should be on the hot seat, but I don't think he is. That's why he's at 5. Again, he's at 0-3. He traded away the best player, or arguably the best player on the team, the best player on the offense, and DeAndre Hopkins, for David Johnson, who's been all right, and a couple of picks. He also traded multiple firsts for Laramie Tunsil. He obviously gave him big money. He's given Deshaun big money. I believe he's the de facto GM as well. I don't believe they hired another one. I could be wrong about that. If that is in fact true, they have no first or second round pick this year in a year where they start out 0-3. So that's already a disaster. And again, they might turn around, might finish 7-9, 8-8, something like that. But again, clearly this team needs some help, especially at the receiver position. and a couple other areas, so they could really use those first 2 picks. And it's not going to be easy to rebuild that, and especially when they're giving, they paid a lot of guys. Like they paid Tunsil, they're paying Deshaun Watson. Like it's not their team's getting cheaper; it's getting more expensive. So like I said, that's going to be tough to kind of deal with because they got to try to figure out like, oh, how can we upgrade this team without upgrade this team in a cost-effective manner with whatever cap we have, while also trying to figure out how to be competitive because again, they haven't looked that great. They're a minus 38 through 3 games. Again, they played a really tough schedule, so it's not they played the Chiefs, Ravens, and Steelers to open the season. And hopefully they can get their first win against the Vikings this weekend. And the schedule, like I said, the schedule does lighten up. But, again, also when teams see the Texans on the schedule, it's not like they're that afraid. Like it goes both ways. Like when you're 0-3, you can't be like, oh, we play bad teams coming up, because you're also a bad team. Like you're 0-3, you haven't won a game. Like teams see you and like, oh, like just like you see the Vikings, like, oh, we can finally get our first win. The Vikings see you and be like, oh, we can finally get our first win. It works, like I said, it goes both ways. So we'll see how that plays out. I think obviously this can be adjusted based on how this weekend goes, but I think going to the weekend at least, he's probably 5. And speaking of the Vikings, I would put Mike Zimmer at 4, only because again they are another team that's currently 0-3, and that team that was supposed to be, again, they brought in Kirk Cousins. Like, I don't know if that was his decision or someone else's decision, don't know, but they brought in Kirk Cousins because they were a game away from the Super Bowl, and since then they haven't got close. And since then, the defense has gotten worse. They've had to let go of guys. They've had to... they traded at least for Ngakoue, but they let go of Xavier Rhodes, who had a good game last week. They let go of Everson Griffin. I think Barr got hurt. So, like, again, they've had different things that have happened. Almost didn't bring back Anthony Harris, which was kind of wild because he was good for them last year. Like, again, they've had different things they've had to deal with. And like I said, on top of the fact that their offense doesn't look as good. I mean, it doesn't look terrible. And it doesn't look as good as it did last year. Dalvin Cook still looks good, though, so that's a good sign. But Kirk Cousins hasn't looked that good. Again, that's not necessarily Mike Zimmer's fault, but what is Mike Zimmer's fault is the defense. At least the defense has not looked good in any of the 3 games so far. They've given up 43 points to the Packers, they gave up 28 points to the Colts, and 31 points to the Titans. So again, the calling card is supposed to be defense. So if the defense is going to be bad, who does that fall on? Mike Zimmer. So like I said, he should probably be on there. Again, don't know if he'll be let go, but again, there was also maybe so I don't know. This might be his last year on his deal. Like I know his contract's coming up relatively soon if I remember correctly. Actually, I can double check that for you guys just to be safe. But yeah, just like I said, he's coming up. Like you can clearly see he's getting a little snappy. He snapped at a reporter this week just because of the fact. Oh no, he agreed to a 3-year extension through 2023. So, all right, he's probably not on the hot seat, but like he should be. So, that's the thing I forgot he got an extension. Obviously, yes, like I said, these will be adjusted probably after week 4. But I mean, based on kind of where teams are at right now, he's definitely on there, to say at least in my opinion. Again, when you look at some of the bad teams, a lot of them have first-year head coaches and things like that, so they're probably not going to be on there just yet. But like I said, I don't know if they would tear it up after just giving him an extension, but also, I mean, like if the defense is the reason why they're so bad, again, that falls directly on the shoulders of Mike Zimmer being a defensive head coach. So that's interesting. 3. Like I said, he might be off the list. Like I said, I didn't realize he got an extension. So there is that. And like I said, maybe we could. I might in my final thing when I finish this segment off, I might flip him and Bill, just because I think Bill Bond. There's no reason he shouldn't have even been back this year. In my own personal opinion, but he's still here. I don't know why. The ownership clearly loves him, but I don't. Again, after trading for DeAndre Hopkins, and their offense not being any better, don't really know if that's the smart thing to do. So yeah, I think I'm going to move him up to 4, move Zimmer down to 5. So 3. I'm going to go with Dougie P, my boy Doug Peterson. Now, again, I don't think he'll get fired, depending on how the season goes. But I don't think he will. Obviously, he's getting some leeway due to the Super Bowl win, especially being recently. It's not like it was 10 years ago, something like that. gets a little leeway because of that. Gets a little leeway because they made the playoffs last 3 years, including Super Bowl year. He's done good things, especially late in the season, to get them into the playoffs when they've been kind of down and out due to injuries or whatever reason. Obviously won a Super Bowl with the backup quarterback, so he's a good coach or a good leader of men at least. But the offense has struggled mightily since Frank Reich left. And again, I don't know if that's because of him. I don't know if it's because of injuries. I don't know if it's because of the voices they have in the building. But they try to revamp their coaching staff, the offensive coaching staff, this offseason, mainly because of Lurie. Jeffrey Lurie, that is the owner, which is another interesting dynamic to me, only because it was reported that Doug did not want to get rid of his offensive assistants, or the offensive assistants that they got rid of, which is interesting because, like I said, the last 2 years their offense has taken a step back from what it was in 2017. Again, obviously they've had more injuries than they did in 2017 on the offense, but still taking a step back for whatever reason. Like, the offense does not look any different than it has the last 2 years, even more of these voices in there. And I think that might be an indictment on Doug in the fact that, like, again, at the end of the day, you can add in all these different, you can bring in all these different ingredients. You can get organic ingredients or try like grass fed like meat or different things. But if the chef still wants to cook what he wants to cook, it doesn't really matter what the ingredients are. This meal is going to be the same. Like I said, I think that's kind of where they're at. Like, they've tried to add in, they've brought in different guys with different backgrounds, and try to give guys different voices and different roles, and fired this guy and brought in this guy, different things. But at the same time, if it's Doug Peterson's offense, he's going to call the offense. He's going to, like, again, it's up to him. So, like I said, the offense continues to struggle. That's on him. And also, with the quarterback struggling, due to the fact they have so much money tied into him, and they don't really have an out until after 2021, and I don't really think anybody's going to trade for him, especially if he's bad coming off this year with that big contract, maybe except for, like, the Colts, who obviously could be, Phil Rivers could retire after this year, and obviously they have Frank Reich, who was his offensive coordinator, who I know he has a lot of respect for, if I remember correctly. So outside of them, and again, even if I'm the Colts, like, if he's bad, why would you trade a lot of, like, something good for him? And again, the Eagles aren't just going to trade him for nothing. It wouldn't make any sense either. But again, if he continues to struggle, then you're probably going to get rid of the coach before you get rid of the quarterback, because that's easier to do. So like I said, you're going to try to fix the quarterback. And like I said, fixing the quarterback may mean bringing in a new head coach. That's what I'm saying. Things don't turn around for the Eagles. I know Jeffrey Lurie's not a guy that likes mediocrity. He wants to win. After they won the Super Bowl, that was supposed to be the beginning of, I don't know if a dynasty, but just like beginning of them competing for conference championships and Super Bowls. They haven't even gotten close. They haven't even got back to conference championships since then. It's only been 2 years. But again, they've regressed basically every year since then. And again, part of that falls on the coach. Like I said, that'll be interesting to see. I know some of the Super Bowl shine is wearing off of Doug. And like I said, maybe wearing off of the ownership as well. See how that all plays out. Like I said, things don't get better. He's a guy to watch. I'm going to put Gase at 2, only because, again, second year, I don't know if they would really fire him after a year and 4 games. But, again, it's clear. The quarterback is struggling. The offense is struggling. The team is struggling. Everybody's bad. The team's undisciplined. I don't know if there's a Greg Williams thing. Again, they had all these, I think they had a bunch of personal fouls in this game. And put a bunch of penalties in general on the defensive side. Like, it was just not a good game. They're not well coached. Like I said, the offense isn't that good. But again, I don't know if that's because of injuries or quarterback play, whatever. But again, they just might need a restart, especially if the season kind of bottoms out and like they're in position to get like a Trevor Lawrence or something. Like, maybe you'd want a new coach in there as opposed to keeping Adam Gase. Or if you think Sam Darnold has some redeemable qualities and you think we can salvage him depending on how the season goes, maybe you want a new coach in there to kind of help him out. Because again, it's clearly him and Adam Gase aren't on the same page right now. Obviously, the mono thing hurt him last year, but this year, this has been a rough start for them, even against, like, again, not all great teams. Like, he hasn't looked great. The team hasn't looked great. The offense doesn't look great. And again, it's fair to question as an offensive guy, as a quarterback whisperer, as he was brought in and labeled. If the quarterback looks bad, that should fall back on you. That seems only fair. So, it's another thing we'll have to pay attention to and look at. So, I don't know. We'll see how it plays out. But I think, again, Gase is a guy that could be fired sooner rather than later. And number one, you guys should all know who number one is. This is Dan Quinn. Don't know why he still had a job after last season. Don't know why he still has a job after the last 2 weeks. But again, him survive, I would be shocked. Again, barring like a 10-3, 11-2 postseason turnaround, I would be shocked if he had a job at the end of the year. It makes no sense. Like, again, you know what the Falcons are with Dan Quinn as the coach at this point. They're a team that is going to blow leads. No matter how big, no matter how much time's left on the clock, that's who they are. They cannot find a way to hold on to leads. And that's the worst kind of team you can be in the NFL or in any professional sport. If you're a team that just continuously blows leads in whether it's baseball, basketball, football, hockey, doesn't matter the sport, that's not good, and it's going to be an indictment on your coach. Like I said, the last 2 weeks are an indictment on coaching. Because, again, you shouldn't be able to back-to-back weeks blow double-digit leads in the fourth quarter. That shouldn't happen. 1 week is bad enough. You shouldn't then literally do it the next week to a different opponent. Like, that shouldn't happen. And yet it did. You know why it happened? Because Dan Quinn is there. Like I said, there's no reason for Dan Quinn to still be the Falcons head coach. Don't know why Arthur Blank thought bringing him back was a good thing. I'm telling you, every time a guy should be fired, and then they have a weird end of the season run, and you keep them around, the next year does not go well. You knew who Dan Quinn was when he gave up duties of the defense. You knew who he was. Them going a little run does not change who he is. Everything we know about Dan Quinn we knew last year and is not any different this year. You know who he is. So, and because of that, we should view him accordingly, and that should allow for him to potentially. Again, I'm not sitting on here like taking pride in saying guys should lose their jobs. But again, at what point are you going to be like, we need to move on and go into the next era of Falcons football? Because clearly, Dan Quinn era wasn't bad. Again, you got the Super Bowl and different things, but it's been mired in disappointment. From the Super Bowl up until now. Just disappointment. And it's not just getting better. Like, again, they haven't gotten close. They haven't been that good the last couple of years. Like, again, it's just one of those things where at what point are you like, you know what, we need to move on. We need to try something else. I think it's now. I think it's this year. But, again, we'll see what Arthur Blank does. Because, again, I'm not the owner. I don't make these decisions. Like I said, maybe they turn the season around. I don't know. Like I said, after this next week, their schedule gets a lot lighter. Obviously, they play the Packers this week. So that is probably another L, especially since that defense has not looked good and the Packers offense has looked sensational. But after that game, you got the Panthers, who are 1-2, maybe 2-2 after this week. You got the Vikings, who haven't won a game. You got the Lions, who are 1-2 right now. Panthers again. You got the Broncos, who are 1-3. Saints. Like I said, once you get to the Saints, that's probably where it picks up a little bit. But again, your next 5 games after this Packers game, which will probably lose, but we'll see. Panthers, Vikings, Lions, Panthers again, and Broncos. None of those teams are good. Also, the Falcons aren't good. But none of those teams are good. You're not facing tough opponents. And again, so you think, all right, maybe we could win like 3 out of 2, get our record like 3-5 after 8, which would be, no, it'd be 3-6. Yeah, let me see that. That'd be 3-6. So again, not good, but better than 0-4. At least you've won some games. Same, but that's what happens. But again, you know what Dan Quinn is. You know what this team is with Dan Quinn as the coach. There's after that Dallas debacle, I don't understand how he still had a job, and then it just happened again. Obviously, they didn't give up a onside kick in the same way, which is an improvement. But still, you blew a fourth quarter lead in back-to-back games, double digits. That's coaching. That's on the coach. And so again, I think Dan Quinn's on a hot seat in the NFL. He's going to need a good showing this week against the Packers to stave off those firing talks. But again, I don't see it. But again, we'll see how it plays out. Maybe they'll show up against the Packers on national TV in primetime. I doubt it, but hey, who knows? We shall see. But yeah, that'll do it for me here today on the GSMC Sports Podcast presented by GSMC Podcast Network. I want to thank you guys, as always, for listening. If you haven't already, subscribe to the podcast. Make sure you never miss an episode. Make sure you're always on top of when we drop our latest stuff. Also, if you could please as well, give us a 5-star rating or a review. Very appreciated, very helpful. Allows what you guys like, what you dislike, the ways you can improve, all that fun stuff. And also, if you're on social media, we're on social media, you can find us there, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook. We can talk, we can chat, we can debate, we can discuss. We can talk about, again, your predictions for the week 4 in the NFL. your predictions for the division series in the MLB. Because we only have 2 games left in the wild card round. Well, two matchups left in the wild card round. Let me say that. Give your opinions on the NBA Finals. Is it over? Is it done with? Are the Heat finished? Are the Heat cooked? Is the Flame going to go out pretty soon? They give your predictions for college football. Whatever you guys want to talk about, we can talk about. Just find us on social media and we can discuss it there. Also, before I get out of here, I want to make sure I give it a shout out to essential workers that have worked tirelessly through this pandemic to make sure everybody is safe and healthy and can get the things that we need to get during this time. So, and also help keep us safe. So, doctors, nurses, EMTs, first responders, firefighters, postal service workers, delivery workers, FedEx, UPS, Amazon, grocery store workers, retail workers, all those department stores, all those people that have been, again, working tirelessly through the pandemic, they probably not getting paid as much as you should be getting paid for having to do what you have to do during this time period. But again, shout out to you. You are help keeping the rest of us safe, even if you're not appreciated by everyone during the time in which you're doing this help. You're at least appreciated by me, so shout out to you guys. Also, if you're going to be out, like going to restaurants, bars, and things like that, make sure I'm not going to say make sure, but just try to tip your waiters, waitresses, bartenders, different things. Because I know they've been dealing with a lot, we've all been dealing with a lot, and if you can, and you can afford to, you have the means to, just I imagine a nice tip would go a long way. Also, wear a mask, because as you will have probably seen by now, the president has COVID, so it's serious. And again, a lot of this could be avoided if we just wore masks and social distanced and did follow certain precautions and different things that other countries have done. And they are now in much better shape with the virus than we are. So like I said, one of the simplest things you can do is just wear a mask. So if you're going to be out in public, wear a mask. It's not that hard. The masks, you can find a good mask like literally almost anywhere now. They're not hard to come by anymore, which is a good thing. So yeah, just wear a mask. It's simple. So yeah, that'll do it from here today. I have been Chris Blades. That has been my time. And until next time, peace out.
You've been listening to the Golden State Media Concepts Sports Podcast, part of the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network. You can find this show and others like it at www.gsmcpodcast.com. Download our podcast on iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, and Google Play. Just type in GSMC to find all the shows from the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network, from movies to music, from sports to entertainment, and even weird news. You can also follow us on Twitter and on Facebook. Thank you, and we hope you have enjoyed today's program.